hands on what's really going on. Now, I would like to just give you an example. Gary Hansen is the the Department of Water Resources Program Coordinator. He's the person who's assigned to come to the Clear Lake Advisory Committee meetings.
Let's do that. Let's put it on as
well,
our first time.
I really want to get this across, okay? I've been waiting a long time to talk to you guys about this, because this is not something to just say, well, next time, next time, next time. I don't have enough life left to do next time on this Watershed Protection District issue. In 2004, West Chesbrough got a bill passed in the Senate, SB 1136, that changed the name of the Flood Control Water Conservation District to the Watershed Protection District. It also added the responsibility for the district to be the legal responsible party for implementing the NPDES Clean Water Act stormwater permit. It's absolutely the responsible party. Now that act amended Chapter 62 of the California Water Codes to say this is what the Watershed Protection District does. In the Clear Lake Advisory Committee meetings, Mr. Hansen says, oh no, it's only flood control. We don't do anything else. The Watershed Protection District, however, represented me in the dialogues with the Regional Water Board people that are going to determine what funding we get from Prop 84. Everybody's included in this but the public.
I just have one thing to say about it too, because we've met like 2 or 3 times now, trying to get this municipal service review even started.
Right.
And when I look at the Napa one, it says that their objective is to review the level and range of services provided by the district in terms of capacity, funding, and governance. And that's all we're asking for. Why can't we get that? And you know, you guys who are on this board and on the board of supervisors, we cannot figure out how to eat this artichoke. We can't see where the money comes from. We can't see what the money is. We can't see where it's going. And we're looking at trying to fund something like we were charged as the Clear Lake Advisory Committee to go out and find funding for the Quadro program. This is your perfect umbrella. This is your governing body that could do this, and you could be asking for grant money like they do in Napa. You could be getting all sorts of resources together that we're not getting, and here is your body that should do it, and we can't even see what it looks like and how it works. And so you guys kind of know, you should know that.
Have you talked with the administrative office at all? Because it would have been Kelly Cox. Kelly would have sat down.
Kelly wasn't there when we started.
Clear Lake Advisory Committee members Melissa Fulton, Sarah Ryan, Michael Dunlap, and myself met with the Chief Administrative Officer, the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, the Head of Community Development, and Scott DeLeon, the Director of Public Works and Department of Water Resources. On May 29th, Scott said, there is no plan.
There is no program.
We don't know what we're doing. We don't know what it is.
My question is, one of the comments you made is you can't tell where the money is. And I asked the question of the Board of Supervisors. I mean, I can't tell where the money is either.
None of you can tell what's going on.
But let me finish my
Okay.
But Kelly Cox was able, and I don't know that Matt's there yet, but Kelly Cox was able to take the step back with all these department heads and look at the whole picture and be able to say, okay, this is the structure that was created and why it was created. And if Matt doesn't know, Matt needs to know. And that's kind of how we're going to sort it out, because it's not going to be Scott DeLeon necessarily that sorts it out. It's going to be the administrative office that sorts it out.
You're absolutely right. And to really get into this depth of this discussion, we should have it as a regular.
I know, I just don't think it's on the agenda
not just
today.
part of the jobs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Say that again.
Representative reports is what is on the agenda.
You bet. I didn't write a new one. I hope everybody understands my computer completely died, which is why you've been free from being inundated this last week and a half by all the information that I do. But at the last meeting, I distributed these Clean Water Program newsletters, which is the newsletter of the Clean Water Program, and also one of them had on the back, yeah, here it is. had the regular report that I make about watershed management plans and programs. I don't know if you got this, Mark.
It doesn't look familiar. I get it most years.
Okay, yeah. I mean, what I agreed to do 3 years ago when I became the secretary of this committee was to always distribute everything through the chair. So I submit my report or minutes or whatever it is, and then ask the chair to send it to everybody. Usually when the minutes go out on the Monday with the agenda, I mean, that's usually how I try to time everything, get everything to the chair on time.
You didn't have one attached.
Yeah, this was a really unusual situation where I ended up asking Maria Turner to print this. And she charged it to the Clean Water Program, so we got a freebie on the report is all I'm saying. But these reports, I've got a whole stack of them here, starting with the beginning of the year, where every month I've turned in a Clean Water Program and Watershed Management and Watershed Protection District status report. And
We usually always have copies at the meeting
right.
for any representative reports that are submitted
Exactly.
prior to the
So when I did receive the email that we were going to have this discussion about our quarterly report, I sent an email back and asked, could our quarterly report discuss some of these things? When we get to that, I'll reflect on that, because I don't think it does. I don't think there's enough in there about what I think we could be recommending to the board. And this has to do with our Clean Water Program and the Watershed Protection District, and whether or not the Watershed Protection District is the agency that receives the funding if we had the sales tax measure successful and so forth, because that was part of what was decided on Tuesday. And so I'm looking for CLAC to be more participatory in the Clean Water Program. Now, this is a copy of the annual report that came out in September, the 9th annual report for the Clean Water Program. Because the Clean Water Program is a requirement, it's a compliance response to the requirement to the NPDES stormwater permit. And it was to comply with that stormwater permit that SB 1136 was approved by the legislature in 2004, creating the Watershed Protection District. That district is the manager of this program. We've had a dispute with Gary over whether the district does anything more than flood control. And, I don't know whether we're going to end up getting this decided by a court, but I think that the Clear Lake Advisory Committee should understand that there is that dispute. And the dispute has been from Gary, from the Department of Water Resources. We've never asked that question in such a way as to get that defined. But since the discussion about the sales tax money was decided on that in that workshop, that it would be received and handled by the Watershed Protection District, and the district is the manager of the Clean Water Program, there's a necessity to have that clarified. Mike knows what I'm talking about. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? That you heard Gary say, oh no, the Watershed Protection District only does flood control?
I remember hearing that discussion at the workshop meeting we had at the Lake Forest.
Right, exactly. And in fact, this is something that.
However, they've also acknowledged that the Watershed Protection District is what should be operating the water programs of the county. So in the meeting that we had with Matt Perry and others,
Right.
There was laid it out that there might be that's supposed to be basically taking over for all the things that are happening in the county or in the water program. So I don't think they're planning on limiting it. They understand that there's a wide range of functions, including being able to raise money to operate their programs.
The reason that I requested that the Local Agency Formation Commission undertake its responsibility to review the Watershed Protection District as a district was so that it could make legal findings determining that it needs public financing
That's
to
a
run these
statutory,
programs. Yeah,
LAFCO's statutory requirement.
that's right.
that they do the municipal service review.
Right. And that would be, enable the independent commission to make the finding that the district does need the financing. So it's not put to a political position, it's a mandatory finding of a district performance requirement. So that was where I had been directing my effort towards that for a long time. The chairman of the Clean Water Program Advisory Council is Rob Brown, and he does not understand this. He does not understand this. He does not understand that the Watershed Protection District, as the implementer of the NPDES non-point and point source pollution prevention program, is required to prevent any pollution in the lake, meaning quagga mussels, meaning mercury loading, whatever it is. That is the purpose of the Watershed Protection District's compliance with the NPDES permit. That is implemented by the Clean Water Program, and the chairman does not understand that. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand, we have a role, we can express this, that the Clean Water Program and the Watershed Protection District are the appropriate umbrellas for those services and functions that you're talking about.
You don't think Water Resources is moving toward that? I mean, there's a review going on right now, and it was...
Is there? I haven't heard about it.
You're on the review team, aren't you?
No, that's
That's
LAFCO's doing
LAFCO.
that. That's not internal.
That's not Department of Water Resources.
I know. That's what I mean. LAFCO is doing the review of that right now, right? I mean, that's what you
Yes,
said
the
in
municipal
May
service
meeting.
review of the Watershed Protection District
Right.
is happening.
So it's moving forward.
But you said DWR. No, DWR
No, I
is
don't
not.
think I said DWR. And if I did, I absolutely meant to say
Okay.
LAFCO,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
LAFCO is doing the review
Right.
of the Watershed Protection District right now.
Correct.
There was information that Scott was supposed to have in end of June. I don't think he provided that information.
And that would be
He
good to tell the
certainly
Board of Supervisors. That's my point. That's my point. We have been trying to assist in the development. We had the meeting on May 29th. We were told there was no plan. We have no plan. We were told that Scott was going to present something to the Board of Supervisors on this.
Yeah, he'd
You
have
know,
something.
this has just gets dragged and dragged and dragged.
So LAFCO needs some help, is that what you're saying?
Well, LAFCO needs the assistance that the Department of Water Resources should cooperate with it to produce this review.
I have a question.
No.
Does LAFCO understand that?
Sure.
Are
Yeah.
they saying that at their meetings, the members of LAFCO?
Well, we formed the special municipal service review committee in May. The commission designated additional members. I've been a member since 2008 of that committee. But LAFCO designated additional members to the committee to assist in the development of this MSR. Then we had one meeting in July, I believe, was the next, and May, June was skipped, so July was the most recent meeting. Then we skipped a meeting in, did we have a meeting in September? Yeah.
I think we did, yes.
We
So you
did.
had
Support
two
fire
meetings
station.
since May.
Right, so we've had 2 meetings, but
We haven't received,
but we have not, what we've received so far is some job descriptions and the cursory budget information that we obtained from that meeting, the resources for quagga mussel sticker program and the encroachment permits. We have not yet obtained any information about the property tax revenues, $600,000 that they receive, but we keep being told that they don't have any money. This is annual, ongoing funding. This is not one-time monies. So this is the kind of open question when CLAC took on in our work plan in January, that we would go and look at the regulatory framework and the requirements and the actual technical needs. I would call those the water quality issues or the invasive species issues. But that's really what we should be asking, is what revenues are coming in and what is being done with those. Because we keep being told there's no money, and I keep being told by the auditor there is this money.
Well, aren't they saying there's no extra money for programs? There's money for existing things, which are obviously not enough to meet the new regulatory needs.
And what are those existing things? This
So
program
it's
has
not,
zero
it's not that
budget.
there's no money. It's
No.
that there's no extra money for the new regulatory requirements, and even the things that they should have been doing all along, like monitoring.
Well, then what are they doing?
Well,
I mean, that's the question.
they
They're
have
saying they
manual
can't do the
harvesters out
programs.
there that are $1,400 a day.
Right?
They're doing some chemical treatment along the boat lanes and shore lanes that they were doing.
And that's with revenues from general fund that were given to them by the Board of Supervisors.
I don't know, I'm assuming it's from the 600,000 that's there.
No, that's why the board was asked to cough up this extra money for weed and algae abatement.
Anyway,
So-
we have a certain amount of time for representative reports, you've already taken half of it.
I did not get to give a report last time.
That's right, we didn't
And
get to most of
so,
the things on our agenda
I
last
do
time.
believe you need to understand, these are timely matters. If they're asking for us to be participants, even as individuals, in understanding their request for funding, I think it's really important to understand. There are programs, scopes, there are tasks that they're required to do, there's funding coming in. It's not, I don't understand any of the justification for putting this tax measure forward, but I would like to see that our quarterly report reflects that there is this necessity to identify the Watershed Protection District responsibility for the Clean Water Program and to make that the parent organization for this. It was agreed upon in the Tuesday meeting that the Watershed Protection District would be the recipient of the funding.
Well, it
And that
was
would-
commented on that would be the, possibly should be the receiving agency.
Denise's statement to me
I
wasn't
wrote
quite
it down.
possibly, yeah. I mean, I'm just telling you, that's what I heard from her.
I know,
was that
that's
it's gonna
what I
be-
heard.
So in any case, this is an issue I think CLAC should be discussing. This fact that the Watershed Protection District has certain responsibilities. The Clean Water Program is the instrument for that. There is no budget. We were not able to get information from them on May 29th. We did say we would look into all the funding for the water management programs, and we have tried to do that. So that's why I'm making this statement here as far as my quarterly report, my regular report, because I talk about this every month. That's where we're at with the Watershed Protection District, the watershed management plans and so forth. And funding is the key issue. What funding do we have and what are we doing with that?
And what do we need?
And what do we need, exactly.
I believe in one of our previous quarterly reports, unless it got stricken by the group, there was a section in there on the Watershed Protection District. And unfortunately, I don't have copies of the previous quarterlies, but as you stated, it is part of the structure, the defining structure of the program. And we already know that they want to move toward a Watershed Protection District. They're not meeting timelines that they've set themselves. It sounds like it is something that should be put in the quarterly report. I agree with you.
Yeah, and the new permit was issued. This goes the same thing as a aquatic plant management plan, that we have over this course of this year requested that they include the CLAC process in the development of these new responses to the new permit, and we have absolutely been stonewalled.
Are there other representative reports?
Watershed Protection District MSR progress report. Betsy, this is yours.
It is. And I would like to call your attention to the actual inclusion in your agenda package, which was a memorandum that we created back in October before the last meeting of our committee. The committee members are all present. And we then subsequently created a status report for you, which I will distribute. Anybody in the audience who cares to have a copy. this report is a single page of our information that we provided in the first memorandum that's included in your package. And 9 pages of appendices. And the first appendix is very important to the discussion because it bears on what occurred yesterday at the Board of Supervisors, where the discussion of, you got a copy? Okay, the discussion was whether the Watershed Protection District was, cute. Do you have a copy of this? Okay, good. Mr. Taylor?
I think I got a copy.
I don't know, but anyway, they were discussing this proposed ordinance. And the proposed ordinance, the conversation indicated to me that the supervisors and the staff were still very confused about what the Watershed Protection District responsibilities are. And so, so one of the things that we did as a committee was to assemble the information that we think is an appropriate guideline for understanding the district. The first 8 items of the memo included in your agenda package are those things that we've identified that we call facts about the district. And this was reviewed by Mr. De Leon, and he concurred with these statements of fact, that the purpose of the district is specifically delineated in Chapter 62 of the California Water Code as amended by SB 1136 in 2004, specifically for the purpose of the district to participate in the NPDES Stormwater Pollution Prevention Permit, the water quality order issued by the Central Valley Water Quality Control Board. Now that's literally tied together. I don't get to use the word literally very often around here. But anyway, it's literally tied together. So when you look at the ordinance that was proposed, there's the lack of clarity is such that it says that the article shall be known as the Lake County Clear Lake Programs Transaction. Well, it really needs to be the Clean Lake Program, which is identified by the Joint Powers Authority of the 2 cities and the county in operating the MS4, which is under the under the compliance requirements of the water quality order by the Central Valley Water Quality Control Board. So there's a real literal connection between the district responsibilities and what this ordinance is supposed to oversee, but it hasn't made it into the language of the Board of Supervisors. So that's why this is a very confusing issue. Why the board doesn't understand its responsibilities as a district manager. Now you have a similar district, which is Lake Osan. And Lake Osan is a dependent special district, has rates, has accountability, has an auditing process that apparently the Watershed Protection District does not have. And that becomes a key issue for us. So that's why I included in this report.
Well, this is, Betsy,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
A lot of
Go
too
ahead,
much
Denise, you're probably
information.
thinking the same thing I am.
Yeah, well, maybe, but the first thing is that the Watershed Protection District was formed for a reason that has not, it was formed in order to get grants rather than to really truly create a watershed protection district, which is where this started, right? This confusion started. Because what's happening right now, it's not that the Board of Supervisors is confused. I think that goes without saying that there's been some muddlement, and so the confusion has come out of the fact that the staff, not Mr. De Leon, but the people that work for him, believe very strongly that the Watershed Protection District doesn't have the kind of jurisdiction that you're saying that they have. Now, I disagree with them, but I don't have the legal. There's enough disagreement at the staff level that has played out.
Absolutely.
And therefore, county council has to weigh in.
Well,
and she'll do that.
And that's what we're asking you guys to do, is to ask Mr. Brown here to help us come up with that. determination.
What you were thinking wasn't what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking that what's on our agenda is a report from the MSR committee, and all of a sudden, we're talking about analyzing a proposed ordinance that hasn't even been adopted by the Board of Supervisors. What the hell is that?
Well,
That's
and
not what
We can't go there.
Also, I did get a memo from county administrative staff asking them not take action on the MSR issue until they have a chance to come to the meeting. Apparently, they're not able to come.
Well,
But on this
I just want to
issue-
keep
on this
things on
issue-
track here.
Yeah, on
Okay,
this
okay,
issue,
so-
I don't know that LAFCO weighing in is going to make a difference on what the Board of Supervisors chooses to do on this issue. We're waiting for county council to come back, and I think she'll do the right thing, and that she'll analyze the responsibilities of the Watershed Protection District and indicate whether or not the scope of responsibilities covers what we want it to. I mean, we've asked that that happen, so.
And in the meantime, the municipal service review for the district is not moving appropriately toward its purpose. We are unable to get the, as far as I know, I have not heard contrarily from Mr. Benoit, that we are unable to obtain the required audit to support the accountability of the actual spending of the
That's the
district.
report. That's,
Well, I'm making that report to you because I'm asking you as a commission to take action in some fashion to
but
see that
that's
that
not on the-
happens.
But that's not on the agenda today, any kind of action we might take on that.
Okay,
It's in our recommendation.
but it's in our recommendations. This is the report to you guys, is that you guys need to help us. This municipal service review is lacking support for information gathering, and we cannot proceed without it. So,
Well, I disagree. Scott's been very cooperative with me. Everything I've asked for, I've received. It might not be the audit, for example. He can't give me an audit because there isn't one. There's the CAFR that the county does. It's under the county's umbrella audit. So the question to me is, should the Watershed Protection District perform an annual audit, as does, I guess, Lake Osan? And really, about all I can say in a service review is we would request the county board and county council to look into the audit requirements for the Watershed Protection District. That's about all I can say, and so that would probably be one of the findings of the report, is that really it's up to the county if they want to provide the audit. It's not up to us mandating the audit. That's not what the purpose of a service review is, and I'll get into that in the next item. But so that's where I'm coming from on this. I'm no audit. I mean, he's not going to get me, and that's it. So we can find that they should have. Maybe we could recommend it. It would be nice that we recommend have an audit, but really the base up to the board of supervisors. I mean, really, it's up to their board of directors if they're going to have an audit.
I think it's pretty long.
Well, it doesn't. We're not going to. Scott, why don't you letter to the.
Point of order, so
I mean, really.
I understand passion on this. LAFCO's not going to be here, is what LAFCO's going to find you. LAFCO
We do.
And the Board of Supervisors, then, as a member of the Board of Supervisors, I can tell you that all of districts should behave like districts. So this is one district that doesn't. It needs to do that, and that's going to be something as a Board of Supervisors we would have to work on. If you form a district because you want to get grants, you should actually perform like a district. So make it.
I do have two overall concerns which have been voiced by the people on the committee as well as me. There appears to be, because of the lack of understanding, that kind of translates to me, there appears to be a lack of transparency. And so that appears, there is a lack of transparency. That's one big issue that I've seen with the Watershed Protection. We really don't know what they do, and Betsy's been a big help in kind of fleshing out this. So one of the other findings in the service review would be, okay, a clearer definition of what the district does should be more open to the public, and there should be, the web page should be more, what's the word?
user-friendly.
User-friendly, and by the way, it's Ventura LAFCO has done an excellent job on theirs. So those are the kinds of things that we look at. I don't want the MSR to be, it's not a got-you document. If we find things in the process, I mean, the Quagga-Mussel program, the NPDS permitted grossly underfunded. And so there are some issues there. Scott, and I don't know if I sent this to you, I forgot if I did, is he gave me the matrix out of his CAM software about kind of what the functions of the district are, which is really a big help of what they've actually been doing. But another thing is we don't get into personnel. And I'm not going to take LAFCO into getting into personnel issues with the county or any other agency in the county. It's just not appropriate. Grand jury, if they want to do that, they'd be my guest. My proposal is to prepare a service review and get it done by the end of the year, to have a document. My question to you is, okay, should I be sending the service review directly to Scott DeLeon to check it for correctness first, or should I send it through the service review committee that we have? And we'll talk about the committee in the next item. I don't want to talk about it here. So what we have done in the last few MSRs is, per Jeff's recommendation, is that I go to the board of directors of these agencies and present the findings in the service review after their staff has reviewed it for correctness, because I don't want to say something that's incorrect. If it's debatable, then we may mention finding that we disagree, that staff is saying this and we're saying this. But the question I have is, shouldn't I be working directly with the agencies, or should I work with the committee, kind of like what you guys, when you do a board of supervisors, I keep talking about them, or the city council, when you do an ordinance, it goes through the planning commission first and then to the board or to the council. So that's a policy question where I need direction. Where is, okay, I get a document, where is it to go first? Because I don't know.
And may I make it?
I mean, per your prior direction, it goes to the agency. That's what we've been doing, and that's what I've done in every other LAFCO. I've never done that. I don't know of anyone that's sent it to anywhere else first.
Jim's been waiting.
Mr. Chair, I would like to offer my opinion of what John has said, and I believe that to go directly to the agency and present it to them is the proper protocol. Like in this case, you go to Scott and present it to him. Go to a committee first, then it appears to become a gotcha.
Usually what I do is I go to the manager of an agency, and then per Jeff's recommendation, as we've done with Clear Lake Oaks and Calliope, I've gone to the district board of directors. Should I go to the board of supervisors with it after it goes through Scott? Does it need to go through the board? Maybe Scott and I can make that decision.
I think that you should.
And then bring it, it has to go to the commission. Anyway, I just wanted to know the protocol because I'm confused, and it could have budgetary implications.
Okay, that's a huge budgetary.
So, anyway, I'll talk about that at the next item. Anyway.
And I think it followed Jeff's suggestion that you go to the agency manager first, and maybe you go to their board, and it comes back to the commission.
Yeah, I don't have a problem saying that because of some confusion that there are issues and that these issues need to be addressed in our determinations. The law only requires us to make determinations, and it's basically, and this is my concern about the Watershed Protection District or with the Vector Control District or the Air Pollution District, APC. Anyway, is that these are county-wide agencies. So how can our MSRs affect the district boundaries? Because in the end game is to support a sphere of influence and to support future annexations. So what are we going to do? Are we going to make a proposal to reduce part of the county out of the watershed district, or say that a part of the county doesn't need vector control services, so we're going to eliminate the Cobb area, and they don't need mosquito abatement. So those are some other issues out there that Scott and I, DeLeon and I have talked about too. So anyway, I've had numerous conversations with them, and we'll continue on. But anyway, I just needed some direction. If that's your pleasure that I should send it to Scott, I will do that.
Betsy wanted to
Yeah,
say
please. I'd like to just up front tell everybody, my purpose in this is to create a solid, funded, effective district. I want the district, I want it to be accountable, I want it to be protective, I want it to implement the clean water program. I am an environmentalist to the core. I am a volunteer for the clean water program. I have celebrated my 2nd year as the outreach and education work group chairperson. I work my ass off to promote clean water, support pollution prevention. I'm quite a muscle volunteer. I've been doing this since 2007. I want the district to be correct. And I also very frequently go out into the public and work with members of the public and boards of directors for nonprofit organizations promoting the benefits of locally self-funded public service. You guys all should know that by now. I am a supporter. I'm not a naysayer. I'm not a troublemaker. I am a really hard-working district supporter. And I, you know, John knows this. I've done a lot of very, very effective work with some of the district boards, like with the Red Button Healthcare District. That was a tremendous experience for me to work with that board to help them overcome some of the deficits that were in the original municipal service review that we did not know that they had already corrected. And it gave them the ability to go out with their board organizations and talk about their district capacities, which is just a really wonderful thing. That's why I want this to be done, and I want it to be done right. If we don't have an audit, I don't want you guys to just say, oh, well.
What can we do if they don't have?
Do an audit. Just
But
do
we
one.
can't have them order an
No,
audit. We can make a determination
Yeah.
trusting that they can.
That's all. I just, you know,
We'll
you
do
want it
that.
to be
I
good.
don't have a problem there.
Okay. First of all, I'm glad you want that. It's a good thing to want.
Absolutely.
You want this agency to do something it doesn't have the power to do, though, except what we do, we shine a light. We have this light, we shine it, and we
That'd be
say,
good. Yeah.
here are some findings.
Yeah.
Then it's up to the Board of Supervisors to take action, to do something with that. So it's not going to be, the hammer's not going to be in this room.
That's
The hammer's
fine, but-
going to have to be back at the Board of Supervisors who says, is this finding important enough to us to create this district and make it right? I personally think it is. I think this Board of Supervisors is willing to do that. They've already indicated an interest because of their interest in the lake. I would let them do their job. You know, if with this finding in hand to say, you know, it's not operating like a district should operate, okay, there's no audit, there's no transparency. We think the public wants that. The public has kind of proven they want that by their vote on Measure E, that now will become Measure L. The public wants it. We have the vehicle with Measure L to make it happen. I think this Board of Supervisors is going to do its job, but I don't think it's LAFCO's job to do the Board of Supervisors' job. I think it's our job to shine the light, point the findings out, and talk to Scott DeLeon about them. But, you know, you've got members on this body that are aware of it. We're going to bring it to the board. That's how it's going to work.
Okay, Suzanne?
I just want to point out that there are some of us that have been on this committee, this work group, for about 6 months now. I think it was
Since
June.
May.
6, yeah. We're still asking questions like, what is a clear definition of what this district does? What kind of money do you bring in? And what is your parameter? What are you? It's very frustrating after 6 months to be still asking those same questions.
So your findings are going to be,
Your
they don't
findings,
know
we
the
can't
answers to
find
basic
anything.
questions, right?
Well,
Don't they have a
and
budget?
Well, they have, I've gone through all that, and I agree with her, and the reasons, the thing, why she's saying that is that there's an issue that it's not, it's in the budget book, but it's not translated into the public's eye. That's what I see.
Right, and
that's exactly.
And that's a real
That's
problem
what I see.
from the public's point of view, and we're just asking for some things that should actually be good for the district, be good for everybody, is if what you've done is you've named this thing and you've never said what it does, who it is, and what the boundaries are, and one of the things that appears to me to be problematic is we're going to the Board of Supervisors as the public, and we're hearing that this district, or even if it's not the Watershed Protection District, but we want money for a quagga program. And then I'm reading, well, the cities aren't within this watershed protection district. So does that mean that if you do a border of the lake, entry to the lake quagga mussel program, that the cities will have to come up with their own program? Those are kind of big questions when you're asking people to vote for something. And what you have is you have people who are very concerned because they really, really want to see you be able to pass a measure, and they don't feel good about it. They don't feel like they're getting information. I think that's the difficulty.
Okay, I'm the minority report. If the commission will recall, you asked for volunteers for the committee to do this review. And I volunteered for the whole commission. I didn't volunteer for the Board of Supervisors. I volunteered for the cities, the districts, everybody, okay? And we've worked rather diligently trying to put together a report that details what we believe the Watershed Protection District is supposed to do and how it's supposed to do it. The problem, as has been expressed by Betsy, is we haven't been getting answers. And part of the problem does go back to the Board of Supervisors specifically, because it's staff that are Board of Supervisors employees that are being obstructionist, okay? But the Board of Supervisors has a tri-pointed hat, and they need to rotate that hat and become the directors of the Watershed Protection District, which they do and have done on many occasions. That's who we need to make this report to. That's who LAFCO needs to make the report to, is the Watershed Protection District directors, because they have that authority. They are that body. And what we need to report to them is the Board of Supervisors is not making their staff cooperate with the LAFCO citizen group that's trying to put together something that's presentable to the public that indicates what the expectations are from the Watershed Protection District and how they should get there. Specifically, the part that just fries me, if you'll pardon my expression, is there's no accounting for the budget. There's been no audits. You're spending my money. How can you allow your district to operate without an audit? I don't understand it. And so that's the message I want you, the commission, to send to the Watershed Protection District Board of Directors, to give to the Board of Supervisors, to say, how can you do this? How can you spend public money and not account for it in a way that I should be able, literally, I believe as a member of the public, as a taxpayer, I should be able to walk in the door of the courthouse and go to a department somewhere and say, I would like to know how much money you get to run your department and how you spend it, and I should get a document. And that is not possible at this point. So here's my message to the commission. You know, I don't think we can finish a municipal service review. The report has to be, we can't do it because we haven't got all the documentation we need. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I think what I'm hearing is there are findings, and the findings are the Watershed Protection District can't or won't. Now you're saying won't. I don't think I agree with that, but you're saying you're not getting the answers that for the questions you've asked. I come at it from a different point of view. I think that the Watershed Protection District can't answer those questions, and the reason they can't answer them is they were never separated from the Department of Water Resources. That it's all in their view. The audit is the county audit. It's all commingled, and I don't think that's a good thing. But I don't think it's nefarious. I just think it has never been separated. Let me finish. Second, the Board of Supervisors is currently the board of the Watershed Protection District. They're the same people. But I think you're right. I think the Board of Supervisors needs to meet and convene as the board of the Watershed Protection District and start asking questions about the Watershed Protection District. And if those same questions can't be answered, then a plan needs to be put in place to answer them. But it is that body's job. It's not LAFCO's job. LAFCO's job is to shine the light, which you've just done, right? As a committee, you went through there, you did all this work, and you said, by God, we can't find the answers to this. Here are our findings. This can't be answered, this can't be answered, and this can't be answered. Therefore, this district is not able to answer some basic questions a district should be able to answer. That's the finding. That's your job. You've done it. Great. Now the next step is that the board of the Watershed Protection District needs a report from LAFCO that says we have these findings.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
We're not going to be a hammer because we have no hammer.
Denise, I'm not, listen, let me be emphatically clear. I'm not saying I want you to be the hammer. I want you to deliver the message that the committee that you formed has brought to you, which is different from what you said. It's not that the answers, that they can't answer, it's that they have not answered the questions.
Facts. They haven't answered the questions, and it could be because they can't, it could be because they won't, but the fact is they haven't.
They have to. It's a requirement. When you spend my money, you damn well better be able to say.
That's a different job, is what I'm saying. You, as a committee member, have said, here's our finding. As a citizen, you can go and rail at the Board of Supervisors and the Watershed Protection District. You can do that. But here, you've done your job. You've shown the light. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I, Mike? Thank you. There's two things I'd like to mention. One is that on any other district, and I mean any other district, I personally, regardless if I live in the district or not, can walk into that office and see their master service plan. I can see their financial records. I can see how many checks they wrote. I can see who they were written to, and I can see what they bought with that money. I cannot do that with this district. So that's just a basic, simple way of a human being interacting with a district, a general district. The second thing is that in the early 1990s, well, in 1990 itself, a group of people was formed called the Resource Management Committee, and then they formed some subcommittees, and the Clear Lake Advisory Committee is one of those. In the early 1990s, there are minutes from those meetings that say, we need a Clear Lake Basin Management Agency, a separate agency to manage Clear Lake. And then later on, there's a discussion about the Watershed Protection District, which then was the Flood Control District. What happened in some of those minutes is that they discussed this. I mean, we're talking 23 years of talking about this problem. When I spoke to Kelly Cox about it in January of 2011, he said to me, I said, now, are you familiar with SB 1136? Do you see what it does? He goes, well, it changes the name of the district. And I said, well, no, it actually has a lot of powers and limitations, has eminent domain, has the ability to contract with the county of Lake. Imagine, it's a separate legal agency with extraordinary powers over my rights as a person and as a property owner, and no accountability to me. That is a fundamental problem that I'm bringing to LAFCO to address.
Now I'll open it up to public comment. You're first.
Thank you. As a full-time volunteer in the County of Lake and the appointed outreach and education and public involvement and participation work group chair for your NBES stormwater permit compliance program, I know how difficult it is to get people involved at an appropriate level. It's very hard to educate people that just walk in the door. Very few people are willing to take the time to read. The members of this committee are not sabotaging or submarining or overspending. In fact, we donate our time. And we have a body of knowledge that comes from serving on the Clear Lake Advisory Committee, from understanding your aquatic plant management plan, from grasping the complexities of your stormwater management issues, and those tie directly to your sphere of influence for the Watershed Protection District. I have no desire to cost any extra money. In fact, I too believe in mean and mean, and this is as mean as it gets, because we have struggled politely to assist the executive director with our local knowledge and our willingness to spend time to seriously study the issues. We're not adversaries, we're supporters. You know from years of experience that I have taken a lot of trouble to help this committee and to help John to clarify things. It's on my own time, and it's with my dedicated knowledge and effort to learn how this government operates. So my study of this issue, of course, I reviewed the policies and procedures for municipal service reviews as we did together a few years ago, and I provide here some information that's taken from that lovely publication that John sent, the California Within Limits from former Secretary of State.
They all have a copy of it.
No, they don't have a copy of what I provided. I wrote some information for everybody, excerpting those pertinent issues related to public participation and the relationship between this discussion here and the specific issue of the sphere of influence for the Watershed Protection District. So if you would sign, please.
Oh, that.
This is a memorandum from me with information regarding your decision-making process here and how critical it is to this Watershed Protection District at this time, because it has legal responsibilities that it needs to fulfill in accordance with the county government responsibility for permit compliance. Alan? Sure. So, the timeliness of your choices for doing municipal service reviews, how you would put those into your work plans, I have never seen a cost estimate for a particular review. That it will take so many hours of John's time, so many hours of Jennifer's time, so many hours of your time, so many hours of staff time. The standards for the inputs are not bloated. They are exactly the minimum amount of information. And in this case, the minimum amount of information for the district called Watershed Protection District is not there. Now, I'm glad John has compiled a draft. I think that the committee should receive the draft. We have contributed a substantial amount of work to the understanding of the district in good faith, as your supporters. We are a committee that serves because we want to help get this district clarified so that we can actually fund it appropriately and manage clearly. That's our end desire. And we have worked very hard on these. So I would hope you would consider these comments before you make your decision, because one of the significant complications that we've had in dealing with the Board of Supervisors over the sales tax initiative, for example, is that even Supervisor Rushing said, we don't understand the governance of it. You're going to ask the public to vote on a sales tax measure, that they would like to know the governance body that will actually take care of this. And the report from the special, what's so special about special districts, says that the district is a separate legal entity. It's a separate legal entity. It has as much requirement for authority and accountability as your fire protection district or the water district or the city. And so to, excuse me. So to infer that the process of municipal service review committee is deleterious is very unfortunate, because I will mention this factor. The State Office of Planning and Research guidelines for municipal service reviews recommends that any service review, any district service review that is complex and possibly controversial should employ a stakeholders committee, a group of diverse stakeholders, because the water purveyors, the landowners, the environmental protection issues for habitat restoration, all of these are critical to understanding the sphere of influence of the Watershed Protection District. And here's the nut. In the new permit for the stormwater program, there's a conflict in compliance with that permit that has gone to the Central Valley Water Quality Control Board. It's an issue for all rural communities like us, for small phase 2 municipal service review, storm systems. It is that we have a district that is delineated as the entire county line, but the municipal small separate storm sewer system permit is restricted to the area where the sewer system is operated, and that is less than the wildlands of this county, which are owned by the federal agencies. So our requirement for meeting our TMDL on this lake is 2,000 kilograms per year within the storm sewer system areas, the urbanized areas, the cities, and the communities around the shoreline. The total requirement for managing nutrients in this lake for the whole county area is 81,000 kilograms. So, 87,000. So 85,000 are coming from lands we don't control. The state can't help us manage that input to the lake. The need for that sphere of influence to define what the county agency can actually manage is fundamental to understanding our permit compliance with the state of California. With Lake Ocean, we had this discussion. It took 3 years to finally come to an agreement that the service areas for the sanitation district should be within the predictable service area. They're never going to Lake Pillsbury. They're never going to Cow Mountain. So that's why you want to have a sphere that's actually rational. And I don't know, John's letter to Mr. De Leon in May of 2012 said that LAFCO had adopted the sphere in 1985. Well, this was in line with the historical piece of progress where everybody just had to adopt a sphere. So I think it's probably where that happened, but I would wonder whether there was ever an analysis of the sphere related to the district's capacities to serve. So that's...
Quick answer, no, there was never.
See, so that needs to be done, and that is required by law.
The Watershed Protection District and the Air Quality District, I'm mentioning the Air Quality District on purpose, and the Vector Control District, these are examples of county-wide districts. The Air Quality District, they were smart. They had a lobby. The Air Quality Association got themselves exempt from LAFCO. The Flood Control District didn't, which is the Watershed Protection District, neither did the Vector Control District. The Flood Control District is a county-wide district, and it provides watershed services county-wide. And so the sphere for that is county-wide at this point. With Lake Osan, as you recall, we reduced the sphere to those areas within the county's planning boundaries, I believe, and or within existing districts. So we did do this. And so Betsy brings up a point on the Watershed Protection District is that I'll need to hire an expert in biology and engineering to accomplish some of these things with a critical analysis, and that will take budget. And so the question is, do we need to go there? And that's what you need to evaluate this qualitatively rather than quantitatively. And we just do an analysis. The watershed protection, I don't really want to use it because it's pending right now. The governance is the board of supervisors acting as a watershed protection district. Their accounting is done through the county and the public works. And so we're identifying this, and there were a few items that were brought up at the last meeting that the MSR should shed a light on. And those items are what should happen. And so the determination of this, it would appear to me that if there's watersheds within Lake County, they should be included in the watershed protection district, not just Clear Lake, like Upper Puda and Upper Puda Creek. You do have this avenue of public input on the process, and people have been very helpful in providing public input. But I see that there becomes conflict between the public input and the agencies, and we get in the middle of it. And I've got a prime example in Calaveras County where there was some public input. The district took exception, but PO'd it, laughed over it. And it's not our fault that the district had an OSHA violation. The fact is they did. And you know, and we found that out from public input. So I'm not saying public input is not valuable. It is. The district has an OSHA violation. Okay, and they got fined. Well, why the district didn't tell us? Well, they should. So there's that check that is what I would say is a good reason for some public involvement. The Commission on Local Governance for the 21st century kept banging on the same drum. Public has been disengaged. The public has been, you know, shut out of the process. And so you read, what they did was this Commission on Local Governance, they produced this report, and it went to the legislature. And the legislature made a lot of changes to that report, and in the end result was AB 2838. And it, basically for public input, for an MSR, we need to provide a 21-day legal notice of a public hearing. And for sphere of influence, 21-day public notice. For annexation, we need to do a 21-day public notice and notify everyone within the annexation area and within 300 feet of the annexation area, voters and landowners, which if we do, unless there's over 1,000 in aggregate, then we don't. But that's all that came out of it in the law. So, other than having the public hearing and garnishing public input, that's what there is. And this way, it's advertised for everybody to see. Because we do it in the Clear Lake has got an MSR that's going to be coming up soon. There'll be a public notice in the Clear Lake Observer, and everybody will be on notice. That I'm not going to advertise it to the record B because that's not the paper there. But anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents, and you can see that a little bit. I'm just trying to throw out both sides of this this issue. Is that there are several, not both sides, but many sides of the issue. So the bottom line comes down is, what are you willing to pay for? And I want to look at it that way. Okay, we've established a budget pattern over the last 10 years. So anyway.
Oh, yeah. I just had 2 questions. One of them is that you talk about the flood control and water conservation district, and then you talk about the watershed protection district. And I think that that gets really confusing because it's the same thing under a different name, right?
She brings up an issue that we found in the MSR. Some of the budget units in the county are called flood control districts.
Yeah.
There are it's all been converted. That flood control district has been morphed into the watershed protection district. The budget units and some of the stuff didn't follow along with that. And as a result, we found some irregularities in some of the, or at least Jennifer did, because she's a finance person.
Oh.
And she found some which you guys hinted on, I know, on how revenues are reported. So that we're dealing with the county.
Right. I just think that that's one of the things that happens is it ends up being interchangeable, and so people who haven't read all this stuff maybe don't know what you're talking about when you talk. It sounds like it's 2 different districts. It's not. It's the same.
Well, yeah, that's an issue. Is there's a lot of, and that was another issue that we need to shed a light on in the MSR. Is just what is the watershed protection, it's just what do they do, what's their role, what's the shortcomings. I think some of the shortcomings is funding, the Quagga-Mussa program, but anyway, that's not what we're here talking about today, that's just one example, but it's a good one.
Well, and one of the other thing that I wanted to ask, because you brought up the sphere of influence and having to hire people. I know with other MSRs that we've done, we get the information from the district or the city or whatever it is. So can't the Watershed Protection District, don't they know what their sphere is, and can't they just tell us? And can't they give us the input to say, this is what it is, this is what we'd like it to be?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
we have to hire somebody to tell us that.
Yeah, they can, no, we don't have to. We have to do an MSR, and
Right.
I know what their sphere is because I have a document that tells me what their sphere is.
Right.
And so my concern is working with some of the districts, is some of the districts do not want to, and I'm not pointing my finger at the Watershed District or any district in Lake County, but I've had experiences elsewhere that the districts are just not quite up front with some stuff. And so what we do is we come and we look at grand jury reports, like we do some diligence or we do some verifying, and a lot of times we miss things, and that shows up because some member of the public brings something up at a public hearing, and the commission says, okay, we need to look at that. And then so part of the process is we hold a public hearing and or a workshop. Probably in a lot of cases we'll do a workshop first, and then actually adopt the service review. We're doing it here, but in some, we didn't want, and when you were on the commission, I remember you saying, oh, I don't want to read the same stuff twice. But maybe for some of these districts, what we should do is in a workshop where you don't have the document in front of you. I don't understand why you don't want to read it twice. So what we could do is review have a workshop on, say, fire districts, and I don't provide the document to you. I provide you like a matrix or something, or what did we find, a summary, and that's what we do in Plumas County. Is we have a workshop, we find out, well, here are the findings in the PowerPoint presentation, this is what we did. Commissioners say, something's hinky about this. And so we go and look about this one district, and by the way, you missed the fact that there was embezzlement there, and there were people arrested, the grand jury was looking at this stuff. And then I go back and say, the grand jury is not supposed to tell us anything, nor is it public record, and I wish I would have known, but it does have an effect upon whether or not they have an ability to serve. So I have that issue too. So, I think the public input is valuable. The problem is some of this information we can't get at, because I don't know what the grand jury is looking at here, and nor am I supposed to know, and they're not supposed to tell me, and it might be something I really want to know. So the MSR comes out, 2 months later, the grand jury report comes out and says, these guys are really horrible. And it happened to me in, I think it was Chester, in a PUD in Chester, where the guy embezzled all this money and he got arrested and all that, and we didn't even know it in the MSR because nobody would say anything. The citizens didn't know, the district wouldn't say anything, and of course the grand jury, there was nothing. So there's all that, and that leads me to a point that the MSRs are very, the lifespan of the content, backup information of the MSR is really good for about 1 day. And then a week later it's stale, 2 weeks later it's really bad, a year later it's really bad. So the MSR is part of it is two things. There's an open file document, which is all the background stuff. And then there's the resolution with the findings. That is the real MSR. That's the 6 findings that they're required to do. That's the service review. And then there's this background report. And we need to, with that background report, we need to update that periodically. And we have a policy that says if we get a change of organization, oh, by the way, the district, you're going to have to update this information in the service review. So there's a couple ways to get it updated before we actually change a boundary. So anyway, I'm just putting it in those terms.
Thank you.
Right?
Are we getting recorded?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For the the record, my name is Mike Dunlap. I'm a member of the public. I've also volunteered to serve on the municipal service review for the Watershed Protection District. I've been listening to all of you who are paid individuals to represent members of the public. And I haven't heard anybody say anything this morning that tells me that you keep in foremost in your mind that we, the public, do not yield our sovereignty to you. Your job is to represent it. I've been hearing a lot of conversation about the expense of a municipal service review. Well, I don't know how much John has spent, and I don't know how much John has spent on an attorney or attorneys for this particular review, the Watershed Protection District. But I know that I haven't cost this committee anything. I know I haven't cost the county anything, except maybe some inconvenience and some embarrassment, because over a year ago I started arguing with one of the county employees about what the interpretation of the law creating the Watershed Protection District should be. I went to the county council and asked the county council to go to the legislative office and get the letter of intent. County council said, I don't work for you, I work for the county. I can be sent to the legislative office to do something by the Board of Supervisors or by one of the directors of one of the departments. I went to the department director declined to do that. Well, finally we created enough stir at clap, apparently, that it got done. And Anita went and got the legislative letter of intent, and lo and behold, notwithstanding the fact that, I believe, Jeff, you were one that at some point said, we don't even know exactly what the Watershed Protection District is in the last 5 years. I know Denise said it in a public meeting. Well, it turns out that it's not the flood control district, it's the Watershed Protection District, and it has some pretty specific enabling legislation in that letter, okay? And they haven't done it, and the county hasn't done it. So going to the county and asking the county, you know, what are you supposed to do, is not going to get an answer that we need, you need, because your responsibility is to look at what the county is doing, what this district is doing, and tell them you're not doing what you're supposed to do under the legislation. That's one of your responsibilities. And instead you're sitting here this morning saying, well, let's do away with the public input to the extent that we can, because we have a committee that's volunteering. And instead, you know, we'll have a public hearing that we'll publish in, what, the Observer? How many subscribers are the
For the Watershed District, it's going to be both papers.
Great. You know what the total subscription rate is for the county?
I don't know.
No, you don't.
Oh, well, how about, there's no reason I should know that.
Well, how about Lake Commission? But the idea is that this commission is to reach out to the public for involvement. Is that not correct? Am I missing something? If the idea is that you're supposed to put it in a public notice and get the public to come to the meeting for their input, how are you going to contact the public in this county? What are the levels of contact that you have available to you? The Observer, the Record B, Lake News. That's about it, right? Do you have any idea what the total subscription of those three is for the total versus the total population of the county? How do you know you're getting to the public? You know, come on, people, do your job.
Right now, because I don't think you got people knocking each other down trying to get on a committee to do an MSR. And I think that if you're going to do one in a cemetery district, you probably don't have a lot of people who are interested. But one of the things about this municipal service review is that there are a lot of questions that are getting answered. I've been involved in a lot of the watershed protection issues for a long time. But as Betsy said, I never read this document, which is the causes and control of algal blooms in Lake County. And I think that most of the people that are on this commission haven't read it either. The aquatic weed management plan, I hadn't read that. There's a lot of information that I'm getting that I think is really important, and I think that the commissioners on these commissions ought to have this kind of information. And I think that if the impetus of getting it is being on a committee that does something like a review of a district, that's important public information and outreach. And I don't, if it makes somebody mad, well, almost anything you do is going to make somebody mad about something. But I don't think that's what this is about. I don't think that anybody is out there trying to go, eh. I think people are going, we want to know what our money is being spent for and what it's doing. And I think that the public has a right to know that.
Somebody else on the commission? Okay. Betsy?
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to get back to some of the, just a couple of little minor points.
And all I ask is that we try to be concise because in the interest of time, you know, we've already spent an hour and a quarter on this.
This is an incredibly important environmental issue to every resident in Lake County.
I'm not saying it's not.
So spend a couple more minutes, please. First of all, the Record B is the county newspaper of record according to the government code. It publishes the Observer. So if you do not put it in the newspaper of record, you're in violation of that public notice law. That's number one. That's what the rule says. Being a volunteer for the County of Lake on their Quacker Muscle program, I had to waive liability, and I have served as a volunteer for many organizations here without ever having the question of my liability for any kind of damage or any problem like that. And the committee itself was actually created back, I believe, in 2009. As you know, Ed, you and John and I met in Kelseyville and had a cup of coffee. It was only because I was working to help John locally get information that was too costly to obtain if he drove up here to meet with these organizations. I interviewed the cemetery district managers, the boards of their boards of directors. I worked on getting information that was very valuable to this commission on the Clear Lake Oaks County Water District, if you recall. That was a big difficulty. Some of the stuff that I did for the Upper Lake County Water District was precedent setting. We have an area of concern that is the only district in the county that has one. Red Bud Healthcare District, I worked with their board to great effect and continue to work with them on senior services and other related community issues. So being a volunteer and actually working, I don't care whether you have a committee or not, you know I'm not going away. That's one thing. And you know I understand a lot of this complexities. I understand the county is really reluctant to look at this district for some reason. And if I wrote you a 100-page list of the questions that we have not gotten answers to, you wouldn't read it. We've asked politely. We're not a renegade group of fools. We're actually trying to conduct the public's business to serve the public in the whole county, and that's what your job is. It's not to protect an agency from scrutiny. Thank you.
Not volunteer.
Okay, Mike, you want to add something?
Actually, two quick things. One, on the issue of, you know, whether or not you're meeting the legal requirement for public dissemination of the fact that there's going to be a meeting or a hearing, it's never a question. Is there something more that can be done without mailing? Yes. The public's already spending the money. It's in the corner right over there behind me. Okay? Somebody could do a public service announcement that gets broadcast on the PEG channel. All right? How much would that cost? Walk in there and do it. You know, or you know, film it on video at home. John can sit in his office at home and do it. You know, and that can go out for free. Now I don't own a TV, so I don't watch that either. You're still not reaching me. You're going to get to me with an email or call me. My other question would be directed to the, you know, this commission's attorney at the moment. You know, if there's going to be a subcommittee meeting, you know, are you going to notice the public for that? Or are you only going to notice the public if there is a meeting of the entire commission? Where, you know, at what point are you going to ask for the public input? You know, the less you ask, the less you're going to get.
Well,
think that part of it though, as far as subcommittee stuff, all boils down to the subcommittee comes to the main committee, and that's where the ultimate business is done, and that's the time for the public input there. But any subcommittee or any other committee that meets, you know, public are invited to any of those. And I
But
think
we need to know about it. That's my point. You know, somehow we need to know about it. So, you know.
And I think that's why, you know, we try to make announcements during our calendars as board members, as city councils do too, to let them know that, you know, this is coming up this week. That's another reason we do that. But I understand what you're saying. It's just, it seems like it's so tough to get the word out all the time. Well, you can see by the amount of people that attend this meeting, the amount of people that attend really hot topics at the Board of Supervisors and the City Council. It's tough to get people out to do that.
But you had a letter that we had forwarded that was written by, I guess, the Board of Supervisors to I don't know if he was an assemblyman or a senator, when the original district was formed. So,
Senator Watershed.
Senator.
It was Senate Bill 1136 that created the
Right.
Watershed Protection District. Thank you. Yeah, what happened was after Anita Grant said that she couldn't quite get the information from the state archives, I called them up and put it on my Visa card, and we ordered the entire legislative package. The first document in that package includes that two-page letter from the Board of Supervisors in 2003 to West Chesbrough, initiating the request to create the legislation creating the Watershed Protection District. And then Mike was kind enough to make some copies of this first section. It includes some specific discussion from the Agriculture Committee regarding the explicit taxation authorities that are then implemented through the passage of SB 1136. So as far as these endless conversations with the Department of Water Resources about whether or not it has the responsibility for these watershed issues, I think this kind of ought to settle the debate. It's, you know, we have, like John said, we've spent quite a bit of time really assembling a large amount of information to substantiate what we understand about the district itself. I'm going to make a suggestion. I'd like to make a suggestion to throw into your thinking process here, and I would like to say that none of the committee members has any idea what the suggestion is. I haven't discussed it with them. I don't want them to be tainted by the animosity that it might create or the difficulties that it might throw into the ring here. But I would think, truly, that the best thing you could do with this district is put it into the Community Development Department, have the Planning Department be the district manager, hire the Department of Water Resources for water-related and floodplain management services, and make it the full arm of the Planning Department to implement the NPDES stormwater management permit. They did it actually as a function for several years. Rick took that on because there was nobody tall enough or broad enough to take on that role, and the Planning Department held that position until last July, when the decision was made to get Scott DeLeon to sign up to it. Well, I have to tell you, his staff literally is not capable of taking on that broader role. They do flood control, they do lake bed management. But the watershed is the land, and the land management issues are the things that we now have to come into compliance with on this NPDES permit for the MS4. So, and I don't say that just kind of out of the blue. I've had numerous conversations with the staff over the last few years. As you may recall, I am the outreach person, so I worked on their annual plan last year. Here's the bonus. You have a planner in the planning department who has a PhD in planning and assisted the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and all of the communities there with his role in his district to implement the Phase 1 NPDES stormwater permit. It's an extremely complex process. The reason that in 2003 the request was made to Senator Chesbrough was because you knew then you needed to do this now. So that's my suggestion.
I have a question and a comment.
Sure.
First of all, I looked through here. I expected to find Senate Bill 1136.
Oh, sorry. That's at leginfo.com or .gov. No. If you want me to send you the bill, I can.
It's not in here. And that's the bill that actually did create this. Right?
Yes, I can send you copies of it.
No, I can look
Sure.
it up. I just want to make sure I didn't miss it when I looked at it.
No, the actual chaptered bill happened after these documents were created.
And the second, and my comment is, I hear what you're saying, but LAFA doesn't have the authority to put this district in one department or another. That's something the Board of Supervisors would have to do.
You know, there's a couple of those guys sitting right here. I thought I'd throw it out there to you.
I just wanted there not to be any
I think we
misunderstanding.
need to sponsor a bill by
Suggesting that we
That's-
have the authority to
I know.
departments.
I do know. I appreciate your tolerance of me.
We can select the city managers and everyone else.
Okay, anyone else? Good. Mike.
And I would comment that I took the entire legislative digest, which is about 280 pages, I believe, or 300 and something pages.
212.
212. And just did this because this has all of the pertinent elements in it. And in terms of the discussion, this bill went to a lot of different committees in the legislative process before it was finally passed.
Right.
This Senate discussion incorporates most of those discussions. That's why I printed these 13 for you kind of as a summary. As relates to LAFCO not getting to tell the county who to assign it to, I would argue that just a little bit, okay? As a member that's spent a year now as part of the municipal service, the Service Review Committee, strike municipal, we do, you know, and this was kind of a surprise, but, you know, we do, and I think we may have an argument with your executive director in terms of what the final language of that service review is, but I think I could speak for the whole committee that we have found that the actions of the county so far have been lacking in terms of their responsibilities for the Watershed Protection District. And LAFCO, you know, using the information that we have gathered for you as the committee, you do have the right and the responsibility to tell the county that you don't think that what's happening is good, and you can make suggestions to them. And, you know, I don't know that it's a little quick to say I support what Betsy just said, but, you know, the bottom line is, I can tell you that we have found that there's a bit lacking.
Yeah, and suggestions,
Yeah.
I want to make sure nobody
Sure.
thought that we had the authority to.
No, but I echo Mike, you do have the ability to make findings.
Well, of
Yeah.
course.
Sure. And really, I would not suggest that if I did not think that was a tremendous positive shift that would not be that hard to do within the organization that you have.